Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. Today I am in the United States, but for the last over a year I've been living in the Philippines, and I'll be heading back that way here in just a few short weeks. But in the last few videos that I've made talking about culture shocks and traveling to the United States, people have been asking me tons of questions in the comments, dozens of comments that are asking me, do I prefer living in the United States or do I prefer living in the Philippines? And that's an honest question. And enough people have asked me that I think it's time that I clear that up and make a video. But what I want to say before we even get into that part of the content is that the United States and the Philippines are completely different places. And even within those countries, such as where I'm at in the United States now, living in one area of the country is so much different than living in another area. Today, I'm in rural Tennessee, which bears almost no resemblance to, say, living in New York City. When I lived in Orlando, Florida, that really doesn't bear any resemblance to what it's like living in Kansas or in Los Angeles. So keeping in mind that, the United States is a big place, the Philippines is a big place, I'll talk about very much in generalities where I prefer to live and answer that question. So I want to start with a couple of different things about what I like about the United States. One thing I like about the United States, especially where I'm at here, is if you just listen. There's some dogs barking, there's some critters around, but for the most part you can hear the crickets, it's just peaceful here. And the United States has a lot of places you can go to where there's not going to be like constant noise. Whereas in some places in Southeast Asia, such as the Philippines where I live, it does get very noisy, and that's a lot of things that Westerners coming into that country have shocks with. So I do like that we have this peaceful nature that we can easily access. Even if you're in a big city, a half hour outside of town, and you can go to these accessible green spaces to where they're not too crowded and you can actually have peace. Other things that I like about the United States involve the cars and traffic. So in a lot of places we don't have the best roads or the best infrastructure, but we do have good drivers. Now, there are exceptions to that, and there are bad ones, but for the most part here in the United States, the rules of the road are generally followed. You have idiots that will do things like speed around you and drive recklessly, but it's not everybody all at once for the most part. So in all of my travels, as far as driving in traffic and stuff, one of the things about the United States is that I don't necessarily feel in danger all the time when I'm on the road. The absolute greatest thing about the United States, in my opinion, is our geography. The United States is a huge, diverse place. We have the Appalachian Mountains in the east, we have the Rocky Mountains in the west, we have snow, we have summer, we have 4 seasons for most of the part inside the continental United States. We have the Atlantic Ocean, we have the Pacific Ocean, so we have beaches. We have amazing natural wonders such as the Grand Canyon or the Smoky Mountains National Park or Yosemite. We have this wonderful national park system as well in the United States that you can really get out into nature. In fact, if people ask me, if you can only go to one country in the world, and money's really not an object, and that's the only country you can vacation in and spend time in, hands down, I would always recommend the United States because there's so many different things to do. There's so many different landscapes that we have. There's so many different museums that we have. There's so many different cuisines from around the country that are different. And because it's so big and because it's so diverse and that we have this amazing nature that if there's only one place in the world to go, that would be it, and you could spend years exploring the United States and just seeing wondrous things. And the final thing that I would say that I really do like about the United States is that at least for me in my career with my educational level and my skill level, I can make more money in the United States than I can anywhere else in the world. Now, That doesn't apply to everybody. I do have a specific skill set that allows me to do that, but I can earn those dollars. Now, there's a drawback to that. I'm going to be purchasing in US dollars in the United States, and those dollars aren't going to go nearly as far. But the fact of the matter is that the economy in the United States does allow you to earn more money. It's just you may end up spending so much more that you end up with less. The Philippines, and what I love about the Philippines. So the Philippines has by far, and I've traveled all over the world, the absolute best beaches and oceans that I have ever seen anywhere on the planet. The nature in the Philippines outside of the oceans is also that you have these wonderful mountain chains and stuff. So in Mindanao, in the area that I live in, they actually have the highest mountain peak there, which is Mount Apo, and the mountains going outside of Davao on the other side of Mount Apo are just absolutely beautiful. I mean, it's when you get up in them, it's much cooler than it is in the rest of the valleys areas, and especially down in Davao City. Every vlogger or YouTuber on the planet, you will always hear what has almost become a cliche is how wonderful the Filipino people are. But it's really true. I have never in all of my travels anywhere met nicer, more friendlier people, especially to foreigners who are coming in, and in my case, an American coming into the Philippines. Much more friendly than it would be in the United States, although in the area that I'm in the United States right now, people are friendly. Not as friendly and as open as that I find in the Philippines, but they are. But I love the people of the Philippines. I love just a lot of not just how nice they are, about how practical they are, about how they overcome problems, and you know, they get by. It's pretty amazing. And I liked it so much that I ended up married to one, and now my children are partly Filipinos as well. The cost of living in the Philippines, my dollar goes so much farther than it does in the United States. So I'm actually able, for about a quarter to a third of the price that I would pay in the United States, have as good, or quite frankly, a better lifestyle, because my dollar stretches so much farther in the Philippines, especially for things like services, where services are actually, the labor costs are factored into it. You save so much money living in the Philippines. And I really like some of the foods that I can get there, such as tropical fruits, bananas, pineapples, calamansi, just some of the most amazing fruits in the world, whereas where I'm living in the United States, really most of the United States, you're not going to get those tropical fruits like you can, and especially not as cheap and as fresh as that you would in the Philippines. One of the other big things that I really, really love about the Philippines, and you also see this in Thailand and some other places in Southeast Asia, but is the markets, the street vendors, the street food, the open air markets, where you can go and get groceries, you can get fresh fish, you can get freshly butchered meats and things. And for the most part, those aren't very common in the United States. You might have some farmers markets and stuff, but you're not going to see that activity at the street level. It's like the streets are alive, and the smells that you get from the barbecues in the Philippines and the street food vendors and what they're cooking is just amazing. And again, the costs to go and do that. I did a video on a night market in Davao City, the Rojas night market, and I took $10 US and we bought so much food from so many vendors. It was more than we could eat, and it was just amazing, absolutely just delicious food. I had freshly cooked grilled squid that had just been caught that day in the oceans, and it's so amazing. And those markets that you see, and again you see these in Thailand too with the street food vendors and stuff, there's just so much activity and it's so alive. Whereas in most places in the United States, you don't see that outdoor activity. It's kind of dead. It's like the only place you really see people is when you actually go into a shopping center or a grocery store. And I really like that vibe that you get in the Philippines. It makes you feel alive as well. Overall, if I only had to choose between the two and I was going to be permanently in one of them or the other, I would probably choose the Philippines. I'm fortunate that I don't have to have that choice, and I can travel and move to other locations when I want to, and I can go back and forth to different places. But if I only had to choose one, given everything that is going on in the United States, the political culture here, both sides of the aisles, by the way, I don't care which party they are. I'm not interested in the direction that the United States is going. That's a factor. I'm definitely not interested in the inflationary costs that we have seen in the United States. I can't imagine what lower middle class and working class people are having to deal with and struggle, because I know their wages haven't gone up at the rate that the inflationary effects that I've seen since I've been back in the United States have caused. I'm certain that many of my fellow countrymen are suffering as a result of that, and I feel for them. However, I'm not going to be a part of it. I'm not going to reduce my standard of living by living there when I have choices and I can vote with my feet. That and just being in Asia and having access to the stuff there, I really would prefer to live there if I had to choose one or the other. Now again, fortunately, I don't have to choose, and that's never been my plan as far as, you know, just living in the Philippines. That's not what my goals are. My goals are to eventually have a home base, which I've already established in the Philippines, and have a home base in Europe. That's my ultimate retirement idea, is that I can spend half the year in Europe, I can spend half the year in the Philippines, have the best of both of those worlds without the negatives that I would have living in the United States. Because between being in both of those regions and splitting my time during the year, I would have no need to come back to the United States other than to visit family and stuff. Now, I'm not there yet. That is a long-term, one-day goal. I may end up back in the United States for a while. I may end up living in Asia full-time for a while. I don't know where the future goes. It depends on the economy, depends on how things change, but that is my overall preferences, and I hope that that answers y'all's question.